I would say that I would I don't know if this would be controversial or not. I would say that the overwhelming majority of people aren't serious about what it is they say they want.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today's episode is one I've been looking forward to for a long time because our guest isn't just a remarkable shooting coach. He's someone who's had a direct impact on the players I've coached, on our program, and even on my own family. Mike Dunn is one of the premier shooting coaches in the world, working with players from elementary school age all the way up to NBA athletes. But what sets Mike apart isn't just that he can teach shooting, it's that he teaches life while teaching mechanics. His message is always simple, clear, and honest, and his work is rooted in the idea that improvement is a journey, not just an overnight fix. Mike is a Central Dauphin graduate, a proud husband and father, and someone whose approach to both basketball and life has helped shape countless players, including my son, who's going to be a Division I basketball player, thanks in no small part to Mike's guidance. Today, we're going to talk about Mike's path, his philosophy, the common mistakes players make, what separates the elite shooters from everyone else, and how he balances a world-traveling career with being the kind of husband and father he wants to be. Let's get into it.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Please believe it or not, I'm still a cream of the crop. I was just until the age of 18 on the charts. Wasn't even dreaming this far. Believe who you are, the sun doesn't even know it's a star.
Mike, I appreciate you joining me today, man. How's it going?
Good, man. And now after that intro, I'm gonna soundbite this and put it on my own website. I feel like that's what people need to hear as soon as people go to my site from now on, because I love that. That was awesome.
Listen, whatever you need to do, I'm all for it, man.
You have the voice, man. You have the podcast voice. You know, you got it down.
I'm trying to be like you when I grow up, Mike. I'm trying to be like you. So listen, let's start with your story because it's a unique one, man. You're a guy from Central Dauphin, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, no less, who ends up traveling the world to teach shooting. Right. How did this journey begin for you?
I would say it got off to a slow start for the most part. I didn't think I'd be doing it at all. You know, I played 4 years at Philadelphia University. It's now Jefferson University, Division II school in Philly. So I played for Coach McGee there. So Hall of Fame coach there. And Coach McGee, if anybody knows Coach McGee, was not just known as one of the all-time winningest college coaches of all time, but like the premier shooting coach in the greater Philadelphia areas. Pros were always going to him and all this kind of stuff. And Coach would take me with him in the summertime to his camps. And I would demonstrate while Coach taught. And never in a million years did I think I would start doing something similar to that. I graduated and I was like, to be honest, I thought I was done with basketball. Went the normal, get an office job. I'm doing all that kind of stuff. And eventually found my way back into basketball. And I was like, man, I think I could do something a little bit different, maybe something that fills me up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And decided to go all in on shooting because I was good at it, not because I was necessarily good at teaching it. And then quickly learning that teaching and doing is two entirely different things. And so ever since then, since making that decision at, I guess, 2015, 2016, I've been all in on the shooting game since, just teaching it now all over the world, which has been awesome.
Man, so my follow-up question to you was going to ask you about like your gift for teaching shooting, because it clearly is a difference, but I can tell you just from observing you and seeing how you go about, how did you get to the point where you became so good at teaching it, not just being good at shooting?
Yeah, I think being good at it is one thing that helps in a major way, right? I don't think you necessarily have to be world class at something to teach it, but I do think it adds a level of buy-in from the player, and it kind of lets them see things too. But also from a teaching standpoint, if you can do something, then you can really feel it. And I think if you can really feel it, then you start to understand how to put it into words, or you can see a player and start to see what they're feeling and everything. But I think anybody can become good at it if you approach it the same way you would approach anything else. I think a lot of times we look at the physical work that has to be put in with something, like, oh, you got to work hard, you got to put in these reps, you got to do all this stuff. Well, teaching, like, and coaching is going to be the same exact way. You're putting in reps every single day with how you communicate, how you show up for that player, how do you talk to one person versus the next, how do you get this idea across. And so every single time you step out on the court, whether you're a shooting coach, whether you're an actual coach, like coaching a team, you're like, I equate it to like people that do stand-up. Every time you go on stage with stand-up, your routine's getting a little tighter, right? You're getting a little bit better. You're understanding how to communicate things a little bit more versus then when you finally record the special, right? That's when everything's at its best. And I think as long as we're always kind of thinking, are we on that route? Are we on that path to recording the special, right? And the only way we do that is by making sure we're very aware of everything that we're doing in every moment that we have while we do it.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there, man. So you and I, we share this CD connection. Even
Yeah.
though I didn't have an opportunity to coach you directly.
Yeah.
How did your time at Central Dauphin, the coaches, the environment, how did that shape you?
Well, first, I would have loved to play for you. That would have been really cool. I'm sure it would have been awesome. And it was so awesome to see what you did with that program. As somebody who, I don't think there was a better time of my basketball career than at Central Dauphin. Like in terms of the camaraderie, the feeling of culture, the friendships, like all that kind of stuff there. And so then when I left, it never felt that same way to me in terms of how a group like got along together, right?
Yeah.
The year after me definitely still felt that way to me, right? Those were my guys. Those were like, those are my brothers. I'm still, I still talk to them today. And then you came in there and it was like, oh, this is, yeah, man, like this is Central Dauphin. And the way you would reach out to the players and all that kind of stuff. So first, I have to give you your flowers because it's such an awesome thing. And it's not an easy thing to do. Like you're reaching out. You don't know if people are going to respond. You don't know what it's going to be. Yeah. But I think that you really picked up, I feel like where we left off in 2005, 2006. Major props to you first.
Appreciate that, man.
But
thank you.
My time there was amazing. And I say like Coach Hassenfuss is who I played under there. And I've told you, like, I think he's the best coach I've ever played for. Like that guy, the way he ran practice, the way he went to bat for his players, he was the man. And like I loved showing up to practice with him every day. Coach Lentz was also there, and Coach Lentz was one of these coaches that if I wanted to get in the gym, Coach Lentz is finding a way to get me in the gym. If we have a 2-hour practice in the morning, Coach Lentz after practice, he's pulling me to the side. He's like, "What are we doing? Are we going to the Friendship Center, or are we staying here? Or what do you want to do? I need to eat, Coach. All right, I'll take you to eat. Then we'll go to the Friendship."
Nice.
And I'm talking about like I was getting 4 to 5 hours of basketball every day, and I loved it. And so we take for granted the coaches that go out of their way to do things like that, not understanding as a kid like they have families, like they have all this kind, and they're putting so much of their time. It's not like they're making millions of dollars doing it. It's just, hey, you want to get better? Let's get better. And I think that was just huge for me and continues to be huge for me because if somebody wants to go the extra mile, we're going to go the extra mile. But that's because every coach that I was ever around, especially at Central Dauphin, was willing to go the extra mile for us.
Man, it's good stuff. I appreciate the kind words in regards to the impact that we were able to make. Also glad that we got a chance to give Coach Hassenfuss his flowers too. I've heard a great deal about him and haven't had a chance to meet him yet. So hopefully maybe this will come out. Maybe we'll have an opportunity to connect. But
you should. I mean, you guys, he's great. He's great. I haven't talked to him in a while, so maybe this will be a spark to find out a way to get in contact with him.
All right, Coach Hassenfuss, we are gonna find you. I've been in touch with you, but I want to meet you face to face. All right. In the meantime, Mike, you've worked with players in different cultures, different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. When you travel the world, what do you find that basketball teaches you about people?
Man, that's a really good question. I would say that I don't know if this would be controversial or not. I would say that the overwhelming majority of people aren't serious about what it is they say they want. And the only reason I say that is because I've been around enough really serious people now. Mm-hmm. And people that, when I say people, I'm talking about whether that's a 14-year-old kid or whether that's an established EuroLeague first teamer year after year. Like the way that somebody that really wants something approaches something is so entirely different from what somebody that just talks about it does. And I know that's kind of like a cliche thing, but I've been around players now, man, I've been around players that they're like 14, 15-year-old kids where people say basketball is life. Right. I've been to parts of the world where for some basketball players, this is their one chance that if they actually succeed on this little contract they've been given at 14, 15 years old overseas, then that changes the entirety of their family's life. Right. And their family has no other way out of the situation that they're in. And when you're in front of kids like that, the way they approach every single minute they have on the floor is so entirely different from the way the overwhelming majority of of people approach anything, because we take so much for granted. And so I think that's the biggest thing. Most people aren't as serious as they think they are until you're around somebody serious. And then it's like, wait a minute, maybe I need to reevaluate how I'm approaching this situation.
Thank you for that feedback. I struggled as a coach being transparent. And one of the things that I try to be transparent about was, people's work habits and the things that they say they wanted versus how they went about going about getting it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man. Whew. Thanks, Mike.
It's hard. It's a hard thing to relay, because it's like this idea of humbling somebody. You can't tell a person to be humble and expect them to be humble. They need to go be humbled, right? They need a situation to happen. And so even like me saying, hey man, you're not serious, that's not going to mean anything to a lot of players until you're standing across from a guy or girl that wants it 10 times more than you ever did. And then it's like, wait a minute. And I've seen it happen. And so that's, there's only so much you can do to voice it. The player has to experience that for themselves. And most do, in one way or another, whether they think they do or they don't, they experience it.
Yeah, that is true. The cool thing that I appreciate about how you go about your business is it's very succinct. And so your tagline is, I make shooting simple. What does simple really mean to you?
To me, simple means the removal of all unnecessary things. I read this amazing quote that said, true perfection exists not when there's nothing left to be added, but when there's nothing left to be taken away. Right. And I think it's such a beautiful quote, because we're always, and if you look at life in general, right, it's always, oh, are you struggling? Are you struggling with anxiety, whatever? Try meditation. I'm adding meditation to the equation. Try this. I'm going to add this. So people that are struggling with so many different things, like in life, I don't know why our default is to go to, I need to add. Probably not what we should be doing. Same thing when it comes to shooting for me. Like if we're struggling to shoot, or we're not finding that, maybe we're putting in the work, but we're not finding the consistency that we want. It's probably not in our best interest to start to introduce more things. It's probably in our best interest to understand, hey, what can we take away? And usually the more we take away, the more we strip away, the more we're left with this really succinct version of ourselves. And that version of ourselves is usually much more prone to results than somebody that's consistently adding things to the equation. So it's my way of, I never heard it that way. As like somebody, like in basketball, everything was always, you got to add this, you got to add that. And in working with pros, especially in terms of, in the beginning, when I would be very worried about buy-in, that helped me get the buy-in earlier. Now I don't concern myself with the buy-in anymore. It's not as big of a deal to me, but then it was also, and then but also that relayed itself into what it is now and how I see so many things.
Along those lines, what do you feel like the biggest misperception players or even coaches have about shooting?
There's this idea that it can only be worked on at one time of the year, which is crazy to me. And I think, again, this goes back to this idea of simplification. If we're just continuing to take away things, we should be able to continue to put a focus on that year round at every stop that we make. I think we see it as this big mechanical elephant in the room that we can't touch, because we're going to mess. Only way it's going to mess up is if you don't know what you're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, yeah, you might mess it up. But if you do know what you're looking at and how you're going about it, there's no reason a player can't get better during the season. Like that's a real thing. And so I think that's the biggest misconception around it for many, is this idea that there's only one time to work on it. And the truth of the matter is, the moment you say that's the one time to work on it, if like a player says that to me, he's like, oh, I got to wait till the off season, I'm not going to work with that player, because you're just going to kick it down the road again, because there's going to be another thing that comes up. Well, coach, I got this tournament, so I might have to. You're just going to keep kicking the can down the road, and you're never going to get to that place where you're actually going to work on it. So I think that's a really popular one, and maybe just an excuse too, right? It's a built-in excuse that, well, I never had the time. You have the time, but you just didn't commit to it.
Yeah, the time is all relative in regards to these journeys that people are on, I believe. And
what time do you wake up in the morning?
Me?
Yeah,
4 o'clock.
That's what I'm saying. So like,
what time do you wake up in the morning?
I don't wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning anymore. Not with my little girls, but I did for a really long time when I was building really trying to build the basketball business and get it off the ground, because I'm working the 9-to-5 job and doing the basketball thing. So time to me was much different then. I was like, I got to stretch my time out while I'm awake as much as possible. So I was waking up 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Whatever it is that you have to get up and get done at 4 o'clock in the morning, you're doing for a particular reason because it's important to you. That's the case with anything. I know you wake up early. That's why I asked.
Yeah, for me at this point, I find that I'm the most productive at that time of day. But also, when I was coaching, I can't outrun my players. I can't do the things that they could do. And so when I was challenging them to do things that was quote unquote difficult, that was something that I could do every day. Like, you know what? I can discipline myself just the same way that I'm asking you to be disciplined.
Yeah.
And so that was my thing. And I found that it is very helpful for my overall well-being. So I just kept doing it.
See, I think that like you or anybody that's willing to say in a different part of my life, I'm going to hold myself accountable. Because if I'm going to be out here as the figurehead of this program or whatever it is I'm doing, how can I be somebody that can't hold themselves accountable, but I'm expecting all these players to hold themselves accountable? I think that's such a big thing, right? It's easy to point the finger and tell people what to do, but what are you doing? Understand what they're going through too.
Yep. I teach, and the same idea, holds. I feel like it's a great thing for me to be the example. I try to be the example basically as much as possible, whether I am doing it as a coach, as a educator, and even as a parent, man. It's just, if I can be the example, then there's no real reason why you can't do the thing that you potentially love, i.e. in the basketball world, why you can't go about doing it to the best of your ability,
Yeah. And it's crazy that you as an example didn't work out with your kids. Like, it's not like they're going Division I in basketball and in softball, It's a wild thing.
Yeah. We've been fortunate. And the big thing is,
But that's not an accident either. You know what I mean? That's not an accident either. Kids look at who they're around most. And and then there's different qualities that they pick up, whether they realize it or not, whether it's intentional or not. But I think that's a big thing. I've told you that before, man. I think what you do is amazing.
Thanks, man.
It's cool.
Appreciate it. I'm gonna make sure I save this part, and when my kids are looking at me crazy because I'm making them do something, I'm gonna be like, "Yo, Mike said it."
Yeah.
And they both had the opportunity to work with you too, so not just Wayne. So,
True.
If you could fix one thing in a young player's shot to create the biggest impact, what would you fix first?
It would just be where their body is. I know that I think we look at shooting and where it's always these specific points in time. This is where the ball needs to get to, your guide hand. This is what needs to be here. So much happens before the basketball moves. The comparison I keep coming back to now is if you think about a tree, and if you look at a tree has infinite branches, a big giant tree. And if one of those branches is doing poorly, one of those branches isn't healthy, you don't make the impact on that branch by directly tending to the branch. You make the impact on that branch by tending to the roots of the tree. And that sends its way up to the branch. It's the same way with shooting to me. More often than not, people's issues shooting the basketball lies not in my guide hand's doing this, my shooting hands. It's not there. It's all of that's happening as an effect of the cause, which the cause is your body's not in the right place. You're not in a position to ever effectively transfer energy from body into the ball. And so along the way now, all these weird things are happening because your body wasn't in the right place to begin. So if you can just put a shooter in the right place, understand, look, this is where you position your body, this is how you connect to the ground, and this is how you connect to the ball. Man, for so many people, and for a kid, you just let them be the kid, like a young kid, because they're going to be efficient as it is, because that's what kids do.
Speaking of kids, you work with players from elementary school age, probably even younger than that, all the way up to NBA guys. What changes in your teaching from level to level, and what stays the same?
That's an amazing question. I would say for elementary kids, again, I'm probably more focused on that initial starting position with the body. Where is the body, and how are we using it? We'll focus on things like sequencing and stuff of that nature. We try to keep things like on a younger level. I'm trying to keep everything that I'm teaching at that kind of 5th grade vocabulary, right? That for like a younger kid. The only real difference with a pro is that a lot of them can handle things on a much higher level in terms of how you're explaining it. And that to me, it all comes down to what kind of learner is in front of you at the professional level. Are they somebody that wants to really know the intricate details of everything that's going on? If so, we're going to have a lot of conversations about that. Is it somebody that just wants to be shown, can you show me how to do this? And at that level, you have an amazing amount of players that they can look at something like, okay, that's what you want me to do. I can do that. It's so much about identifying the type of learner that's in front of you and kind of just making sure that that's who you're presenting or that's who you're showing up for in that moment. The message is still the same in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. How the message is delivered just definitely changes from the young kid up to the professional.
I think about the thing that I see that makes you different, and it's the fact that you're always putting some life lessons in there while
Yeah.
you're teaching shooting. What are some of the bigger lessons players take away from their time with you?
I don't know what they take away. I'm sure some of them are like, some of them are probably thinking, Mike, shut up, man. Like I'm good. Like if you were to open up Twitter or X, how many coaches will reiterate or preach? We're not just teaching basketball; we're teaching life lessons. But how many of them are really doing that? How many of us are really focused on that? I think my biggest thing, especially recently, is, and this is even like my own path, is we are so outcome based in everything that we do when we shoot. We're outcome, 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 outcome. We can't be the best version of ourselves if our mind is on the outcome plus us, because then our attention is split. And then to me, like, it's the same thing in life. Like, I can't be the best dad if I'm focused on being a dad, but then at the very same time, in that very moment, I'm thinking about a million other different things. And so it's this idea of how immersed can you be in what you're doing? How much can you love what you're doing that the outcome is irrelevant, and instead making everything that you're doing like it's almost like an offering. It's almost like you're giving yourself to this game. I don't know about you, but like, I've never felt bad doing something for somebody else. If I've ever done something for somebody and not expect anything in return, I feel amazing about that. Why not approach basketball and the work that you're putting in the same way? Give it all you got. Hey, I'm giving this to the game. The outcome's the outcome. But now you're presenting the best version of yourself, irrelevant of the outcome. And then ironically, that lets you access all of those superpowers that you've been working on when you're in the practice gym by yourself and you're doing all that kind of stuff. And so I think there's a big time carryover of that to real life situations of give yourself to people, give yourself to the moment, the family, all that kind of stuff, and good things are going to happen.
This episode is being brought to you by My Jersey Designs. If you're looking for digital replica jerseys, go to myjerseydesigns.com and they'll take care of you. From the idea of improvement, it takes time. Progress isn't always linear. How do you help players, especially kids, stay patient when the results aren't always immediate?
I can't get mad at a kid for not being patient because we all want the thing. I think this comes back down to the serious question, right? Or to the serious statement. Because if we're really serious about what it is that we want, then the work is just a byproduct of it, whether the results are in that moment or whether the results are a year down the line. We're doing it because there's a certain knowing that we have that we're going to figure this out and this is going to get better. And so that's where it comes from. Like, listen, do you really want to do this? Because if you really want to do it, then the work is just there. And we're showing up and we're doing it regardless of what's happening in terms of, the short-term success or the long-term success. So if we're serious enough, then it shouldn't matter all that much. And I know that's a really hard thing for most people to grasp until you have made that commitment to something, like I said earlier, that, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to figure it out. Then that's not even a question that you ask anymore. It's not even something that even crosses your mind. I tell this story to players. I say I was teaching shooting for 5, almost 6 years before I made like a positive dollar. That didn't matter to me because I'm looking at it like, no, this is inevitable. I know eventually this is going to really work out for itself and I'm getting better. So you're not going to see a big time win every single day. It's just not the way it works. But if you're serious enough about the craft of what it is that you're trying to master, then I don't think the patience issue is a real question anymore.
I totally follow. And I wonder, from your perspective, why do you think so many players struggle with that?
Because I don't think most people are serious as they think they are. I think, like I said, that's why to me, it's the biggest thing. Okay. It's the same reason why when we're older and I look around at people that I grew up with or something, right, that, say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but never do it. You weren't really serious about it. Let's just call it what it is, right? That's the transparency of it. We want to think that that's not the case, but it is the case. And that's the reason why there's levels to things. There's such, you know what I mean? Like that's the
Yep.
reason.
Yeah.
Like if you're around NBA players, you say, "Oh, wait a minute. That's why this guy's an NBA player." Right? That dude isn't built like a lot of these other people that, you know what I mean? From a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from the work that they're putting in, there's a difference. And so if we're not serious, okay, we'll see where we end up, but it's probably not going to be to where you think you are.
Right. So the other part of how this all goes, or at least especially in regards to shooting, is confidence. It's something that every player thinks they need more of.
Mhm.
Like, how do you help players build confidence without forcing it or faking it or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain place you have to get to, and I think I alluded to this a little earlier, but there has to be a knowing on your end of what it is that you really are. And that comes through the work that you're doing, but it also comes from that decision of, I am that. I am that thing that I think I am, and that I'm saying I am. And when there's a real knowing to it, man, I think confidence is just a natural byproduct of that. And you don't get to the knowing by ignoring the work. Just like, you can't just do the work and not know. It's kind of like this combination of things that have to come together. So confidence is such a tricky one, but when you get to a place of knowing, right, then that comes back to then being able to access your superpowers full on. And it's how you get there, I think, is different for everybody, whether life gets you there in a certain way or basketball gets you there, whatever. But you're going to have to arrive there at one point to be able to scratch the surface on what you're really capable of out there.
You speaking of probably a subset of players that know
Right.
are NBA guys. You've been inside NBA workouts.
Mm-hmm.
What's something you've learned from being around the highest level players in the world that might surprise some people?
I would say how inquisitive most are. Most professional players are so smart. And I'm not saying like Jeopardy smart. I'm saying basketball, understanding how things work, how things flow, and then how quickly they'll call out things that seem, we'll say, like clickbaity, but in real life. So if a player thinks that something that somebody is saying makes no sense, be like, hey man, you make no sense. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so it's a great thing because you have to be on your A game in terms of what it is that you're doing, because you're also working with players that have seen it all, right? Whether the good, the bad, the in between, they're at the highest level. They've seen it all. And you better know your stuff if you're really trying to do what you say that you're setting out to do. But how inquisitive most professional players are is awesome. And so many workouts turn into conversations on top of the basketball thing that go on and on and on. So that's the really cool part.
Good. What do the best shooters in the world do daily that others don't?
I think knowing is one thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think they know that they're one of the best shooters in the world. There's not one thing that I could say that would serve as like a prescription of somebody to then go out and then start to do, hey, best shooters in the world shoot this many shots or this. All that stuff is great. I think it's great to talk about, and I think it's good rah-rah stuff. I don't think it's necessarily relevant to most people. I would say the best shooters in the world, they understand what works for them, and they understand that at a really deep level. That doesn't mean they understand it for everybody else, but they understand what really works for them. And then in addition to that, also looking for an edge wherever they can find an edge that's going to continue to catapult them in the direction that they want to go. But the understanding piece, I think, is what most players are missing. We're always looking for, like what I said, the prescription type stuff. Way more people are looking for, how many shots do I shoot? What drill should I do? How many of this? And that's not the answer to your problems. Because if you're always looking outside of your understanding, then there's no end to that. Because after that, it's, okay, well, now how many shots? Okay, well, now what drill? Well, now it needs to get to a place where you're like, I don't need any of that information anymore, because I understand myself. I understand what it is that I'm setting out to do. And then you can build on that in kind of your own unique way, like be the artist in a sense that you are as a basketball player. But that only comes without mimicking everything else that everybody else is doing.
Mike, I went on the time warp just now as you're talking, because I remember when my son was younger and you were working with him, and I would ask you to, like, how many times should he do this? When should he do that? And you said, I remember one time you were like, he'll know.
Right.
He'll know when he needs to move to the next thing. And I'm just like, but I get it. It took me some time, and so anybody who's listening, they're probably going to be like, what? But
Right.
whoever's watching or listening to this, I can tell you personally that I lived this. And, and Wayne wasn't old enough to know, or at least in my mind, he wasn't.
Right.
But you were very true, and it was very accurate. He'll know. And then we moved to the next thing. And it became a thing where it was never about the number of reps. It was the quality of the rep until I felt like I got it, and then I move on to the next thing.
If it was about the number of reps, then if I swung the golf club just as many times as Tiger Woods, am I Tiger Woods?
Nah.
It's not about it's just not about the reps. You know what I mean? It is, but it's not. There's way more to it. But it's really hard to get out of that mindset because I know I was always fed, you have to do this much. You have to shoot from here. You have to shoot. It's really not the case. Like, that's really not how we're going to move the needle at the end of the day for us.
Yeah. So speaking of, I've seen the transformation you had on kids in our program. And of course, obviously you work with my son since he was in 8th grade. What's the key to helping a player rebuild, refine anything in regards to becoming a better shooter without losing confidence in the process?
I think it has zero to do with me. I think it has everything to do with the player. And so Wayne is a great example of somebody who was and continues to be invested in himself, right? Maybe a nudge early on, like so many kids. But then as things started to pick up and get serious, it was even more noticeable. Okay, yeah, I'm doing this. Nobody's forcing me to do this. Like I'm out here and I'm going to get better. And so you can't tell anybody or expect anybody to get really good results or find what it is they're looking for by telling them what to do. They have to first be invested in what it is that they're doing. And so that's the biggest thing. You will never lose out on confidence if you're truly invested 100% in what it is that you're doing. This comes back to the understanding portion of things too, because that investment, it gives you ownership of what it is that you're doing. You're not looking outside of you for other things and all that. So I think that's the biggest thing. And that's what I've learned in working with players, is that I'm lucky if I have a handful of them that are that invested in what it is they want to be great at. It's not for everybody. It's just that, it's not. But the ones that are truly, have made that decision, they end up continuing to grow confidence, continuing to get better at what they're doing because they made that decision for themselves, not because of anything that I did.
I appreciate the fact that you place the onus on the players that you work with. I can tell you that you do play a part, and even if it's from the perspective of presenting that to them, I've over the years learned a great deal just by watching how you work. My ability to become a better coach came from just watching you, man, and not sweating the small stuff. Early on in my time at Central Dauphin, which coincided with the early part of Wayne working with you, I would always be worried about things that didn't necessarily matter in the long run. Yeah. And so, like I said, going back to how many shots does he shoot? How many shots, and it goes for all of our players. And right. when you break it down and when you just think about what it is that we're trying to do and knowing the direction we want to go, as long as we're moving along that path, we're good.
Yes. That's it. And I think, but there's the thing there, as a coach, like what you're saying, don't sweat the small stuff. Yeah. To me, we can put them on the path for sure, but then we got to get out of the way.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can get them there, but it's like, I don't want to ever hold a player's hand too far along, because now they lose track of who they are and what makes them unique in general. Right. So it's like, I'll put you on there and I'm continuing to learn to try to get better and better at this, but then I have to pull back, because if I don't, now you're relying on me forever. And I don't want you to be relying on me. I want there to be a time where it's just, hey, Mike, I'll see you when I see you. If I really need something, I'm going to reach out. You know what I mean? Like, that's my goal with every player, is to get to this place where I even one of the NBA guys, he said something the other day and I was like, good. I was like, we're that much closer to you not needing me anymore. This is awesome. Right. And I think that's where that's where I want to continue to go with it.
Good stuff, man. Now, a little bit of a shift, right? You're on the road, you're in the gym constantly, but you're a guy who always puts his family first in a real way. How do you balance everything and make sure your work doesn't take over your life?
Because I think I might even learn more from being with my family than I do from being on the court in terms of how to approach things. And so by being with my girls, it's like that's where I had this revelation of, man, I feel so good when I'm with my girls. I just feel like that's where I belong. And that's where I had the big revelation of I'll love my girls no matter what. Like one day they could wake up and they could be like, Dad, I hate your guts. I'm be like, and I'm gonna say, but I love you. Right? I give everything I can to them without ever expecting anything in return. That is what then triggered things on the basketball side of give everything you got to this game and don't expect anything in return. And you're still going to feel amazing. Right.
Yes.
And so it's that unconditional feeling. Like if you really are passionate about it, like I'm passionate about my girls. And when I say my girls, that's my 2 little girls and my wife.
Yeah.
Like I can use that everywhere, that perspective, because I know how great I feel when I'm just offering myself up to them. Right. And it doesn't matter what they say to me. I'm always going to love them. Right. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing now on the basketball side. Okay. What if we just gave ourselves to what it is we're trying to get better at with no expectation of the game loving us back? Probably going to end up feeling really good, but also in an ironic turn of events, you're probably going to end up getting the outcomes that you really wanted to get. So that's like a selfish answer in a way, because I'm using them as a way to parlay into basketball, but they're also the best. It's family and it's basketball. And that's the only 2 things I really have time for, but that's also the only 2 things I want to make time for. So it works out.
Love it. Love it. And speaking of parent, right? Parents who have kids who have big goals, whether it's wanting to play varsity, college, or even beyond, but also want to keep the journey fun and healthy. How do you help them with that?
I think maybe it just comes back down to the unconditional part. Is like for me, like I can only speak for my little girl now, right? And she's showing interest in basketball. Doing everything in my power just to make sure that she likes what she's doing. If she doesn't like to do it, I'm not going to go crazy over it, all this kind of stuff. And whether win, lose, whatever, it's for me, it's I love you. You know what I mean? Like it does not matter to me. It really doesn't. So I guess I could only speak through my limited experience in that as of now. I would imagine for you navigating that as a parent and as a coach would be really difficult to do because there's so many sides to that. That's not just parent player, that's parent coach player, which I don't have experience on. So I don't even know. I don't think I'm qualified to even speak to that as much as I even just did right now. So you would probably be a much more well-suited person to speak to that part of things.
I think, again, I'm going to go back to what I learned from you, because it wasn't the coach thing. It was the parent part of it. And because I was directly coaching my son, you know, he says he wants to do these things and I got to hurry up and help him to get there. And I got to make him. And part of the interactions that you had with him and then me following up with you. And it was like, hey, man, like he's got to want to do it. Right. And you can't make him, and you can't, the whole idea that you talked about, the hand holding and things like that. And it wasn't until I relinquished that, right? Because it's not my journey. It's his.
Yeah.
It wasn't until that happened that things got better for all of us. So
that's really
and I don't know, back then, you were a parent already, but I think it's all about how we view our relationships that are important to us. So you're good. You're spot on with that.
I think what you said there makes tons of sense though, because if he or any kid is looking at the parent as parents taking the lead to take me here, to take me there, right? Now he's always looking that way, or she's always looking that way. But the moment you say, all right, listen, we want to do it. I got you. I got your back 100%. If we want to go, you get in the car first. You take, you know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. Now it's a lesson in, okay, I'm responsible for this now. And so it's without even maybe realizing it, it's one of those things where that it clicks over to, okay, this has to be on me. I can't wait on anybody else anymore. I have to be the one doing it. So maybe that's how that worked out a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, from my perspective, I think that's how it worked out. Yeah, it was helpful too. It was helpful for all of us.
Yeah.
So at this point, man, you've accomplished so much. You know, what keeps you inspired? What keeps you doing this thing at such a high level?
The cliche answer is that there's always more to learn. But there is, man. Like I find I was talking to the guy that I consider my mentor. He's the shooting coach for the Heat, Rob Fodor. And I was talking to him the other day, and I was like, Rob, I don't know about you, but I can't go through any part of my day where I'm not relaying something back to how I'm going to teach something. Like no matter what I look at, no matter what I watch, no matter what I read, no matter who I come in contact with, it's this constant, how can I express that? Because you start to see these, what's the right word? You start to see what it is that you teach in everything, right? Or the principles in everything. Like I'm watching my daughter do karate the other night, and I'm watching her balance as she's going through forms. I'm just watching her head. And I'm like, well, she's not even aware of how good her balance is that allows her to do these things. I'm watching other people like fall over. Yeah. And so then I'm watching that, and then it gets me on the court, and I'm like, man, I want to watch James Harden tonight because he's amazing at keeping posture and moving in a way where his upper half doesn't look like it's moving, but he's covering and getting to wherever so it's this constant exploration of everything and tying it back to the one thing that I think I'm okay at talking about and teaching. And so it's like, oh, this is never ending. It's just, it replenishes all of the time. And I'm finding nuances all the time and different ways of presenting it. And it will never get old to me. And I did it. And that's what I did it when I was making nothing. And so now doing it where I'm making money, it's just a bonus. Like I feel like I'm playing all the time. I don't ever feel like I'm working. And so it's the greatest thing.
That is super cool, man. I'm a little envious of you, but I can appreciate, this thing called basketball and what it has allowed you and all of us who love it to do. Yeah. I guess my next question is, what's next for you, man? Is there anything you're working on or excited about that people should know?
No, I just want to be really good at what I do, man. And there's no award for it. There's no trophy for it. Just continuing to just try to get better and better at what I do. I have this vision of one day I'll be like the guy, right? The guy that when somebody is in need of, like, hey, we really need help. Who do we have to call? We're bringing in Mike right now, right? Yeah. And that's always been kind of the goal of mine, is to get to that place where that's where I get to. So whether I get to it at 40 or whether I get to it at 60 or 7, whatever, if that's when it comes, that's the knowing part. I feel like I know that's going to happen at one point. Mm-hmm. As brash as that may sound, I guess, but just going to keep working towards that. Right. That's the goal.
My follow-up question was, what do you hope your legacy to be in the basketball world is? But it sounds like that's it.
I don't know if there is such thing though, because I think eventually it just goes, right? So my legacy in the basketball world will be here while I'm here.
Yeah.
Great. But eventually no one will care anymore. And that's okay too. Like I won't be here to care if they care. So I'm just focused on, while I'm here, what can I do? And the rest of it, we'll leave that up to whatever happens. But eventually it all disappears anyway. I think that's a good perspective to have sometimes.
If you've gotten this far, please hit the like button so that we know that you appreciated this episode. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the platform that you are receiving this podcast. We very much appreciate it. Now, as we're winding this thing down, I like to end it with some quick hitters, so to speak.
Let's go.
So, all right. Now, when I wrote this down, I'm like, man, is this even a good question? But I'm going to try it. Favorite shooting drill of all time?
It doesn't exist.
Okay.
No, I'll say my favorite thing that I used to do as a kid, though, was tap, back pedal out, 5 spots, shoot 5 at each spot, and then you had to make 4 out of 5 at a spot in order to complete the drill. If you had the traditional 5 spots, you went corner, wing, top, wing, corner. Mm-hmm. If I went 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5, and then I got to the last corner and I went 3 out of 5, then the whole drill started over. And that was my favorite thing to do, because you would set that number at 4 and that was a monster. But only a really good shooter's getting around on that drill going 4 out of 5. But that'd be my favorite, just because it was conditioning. It was a mental thing. It was tough. And then there's pressure on you. That was didn't make me necessarily a better shooter, I don't think, but did a bunch of other things.
I feel like something like that, because I not get too much into the workouts that our players used to do. I know that when there was something and there was an ending that you had to do, there's a level of focus that you have to have.
Yes, so that's true.
When there's a level of focus, when there's a level of lock-in, I think it makes you a better shooter, or it just makes you a better human, you know, but it makes you better at something.
I've watched players just collapse doing that drill. Like
Yes.
lose their minds because they can't finish it.
Especially like towards the end, if you get all the way through,
Yeah,
and then oh my god.
yeah, it's a killer. But yeah, I'd say that's my favorite for sure.
Okay, all right, cool. Here's a good one. Most memorable gym you've ever trained in, and why?
Ever trained in?
Yeah, so whether you were doing it for yourself or you were training somebody, any gym you've been in.
So the other night, for the first time, I got to train somebody in the Palestra, which to me is like a basketball mecca. It's one of the coolest places. But then there's so many places. There's an arena in Gran Canaria, which is a small island off of the Ivory Coast, in which there's an ACB team there, and I've got to train players there at that arena. And it's old, and I guess it's not super old, but the feel is completely different. It's a place that nobody would ever be. But I guess the Palestra is the coolest to me, just because of the history behind it and all that kind of stuff. So I'll go with the Palestra.
So there's anybody from Pennsylvania who will partake in this will love this answer. Anybody outside of, and I'll just say us New Yorkers will be like, yeah, okay, go to the Garden, do something like that. But
the Garden would be amazing. Like that'd be a really, really cool thing. It's funny that the Palestra just happened, but I mean, I've been in so many gyms, but the Palestra has a special place for me.
no, I've lived in Pennsylvania long enough to know like how special the Palestra is.
Yeah.
And when the Philadelphia Catholic League teams are playing their playoffs in there, it's nuts. So
Crazy.
yeah, you're good.
It's a good spot.
Here's one. I'm curious to hear what your answer is. If you could train any player in the world that you haven't yet, who would it be?
Any player? It's a really tough question. I would love to work with somebody like Giannis, just because I think the way he approaches things and how much he cares would be really interesting. It'd be way more than what I think a lot of people think his needs are in terms of, mechanically. I think he knows what he needs to do. It's just a matter of how do you get him there and how does he get confident with it. So that would be one of those things that it'd be really interesting to see if you could get him to where you think you could get him, because he cares so much, and that'd be really cool.
And what's one thing someone listening right now could do today to become a better shooter?
I would say get my Keep Shooting Simple. No, I'm just kidding.
Get that subscription, man. It's good. It is good.
Man, so here's the truth. I put out a free ebook just now that captures body positioning and sequencing. Those two things. That's all I focused on in that ebook. If you can focus on those two things today and start to understand them, like going the house, doing ball raises, and then doing 1-2 throughs, that kind of stuff, that can set you on your way in a way that most things can't. So understand where the body needs to be, understand sequence, and you would be on your way. In all seriousness, like that's the basis of everything.
Nice. Well, listen, man, anybody who's out there, when you watch this, please go get the ebook. How can they find that ebook, Mike?
$3.99, man. Just if you went to my bio in Instagram, it's there, or at www.keepshootingacademy.com. It's right there. So it's free. So we've had so many people get it, and then the response when people have been talking about it has been great. So I'm glad that people are using it, because it puts a lot of the things that I've done online into one place, and then allows people to kind of go through in a much more sequential order as they embark upon that, upon learning that. And if you want to learn it, you'll learn it. If you don't, you won't. That's the way it goes.
So, Mike, I appreciate you, man. Not just for what you do for the game, but what you've done for our program and for my family. Hey, this one was special. And so everyone listening, if you don't follow Mike already, go do it. He makes shooting simple, but the impact he makes goes a long way beyond basketball. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you next episode.
Thanks for having me, man.